Hail, travelers, and welcome to the darker side of the Knight's realm. Here in the dark forests of Camelot, I, the Fright Knight, retell tales of horror from the most forbidden depths of the archives of popular culture and entertainment. Now, join me as we delve into the forest to begin our quest. Today we return to planet Cybertron and delve into the dark deeds of the Decepticons' resident mad scientist. Quick aside before we dive into the video, I wanted to point out that we've reached 500 subscribers. I want to thank everyone who's helped me reach this goal, and I hope that more will continue to join us as we continue our quests through the Knight's Realm. And just as a reminder, if you want to request a topic or vote on pre-chosen topics, you can join the Knight's Realm Patreon in the description below, or you can leave a super thanks in the comments. Now, back to the video.
Here we are.
That's not a good sign.
Since I could not compel you to surrender the encryption code, I'm forced to introduce you to someone whose methods are a little more persuasive.
We may be in a little more trouble than I thought.
Autobots, say hello to Shockwave.
A hulking frame, a sinister violet color scheme, a large cannon for his arm, and a singular emotionless eye where his face should be. Shockwave's appearance is unnatural, even for Cybertronians. When he speaks, it is in an eerily calm monotone. Though on the surface he seems loyal to the Decepticon cause, in truth, Shockwave serves only one master: cold, hard logic. Most on-screen iterations of the character show him as a faithful servant to Megatron, but any who are familiar with other pieces of Transformers media know that Shockwave is only biding his time. To put it simply, at the war's dawn, Megatron was the most logical choice to side with. Optimus Prime, in his talk of freedom, unity, and altruism, were, in Shockwave's eye, the dreams of an illogical fool. For Cybertron to prosper, a strong leader was needed, and at that time there were none stronger than Megatron. Besides, Prime and his Autobots were less inclined to allow Shockwave's particular brand of scientific inquiry. The one-eyed logician cares little for concepts so far beneath him: compassion, mercy, common decency. In the aligned continuity, Shockwave is responsible for the creation of the Dinobots and the Insecticons, and the method by which he forged them is not pleasant. The Dinobots were once a normal, if extreme, band of Autobots known as the Lightning Strike Coalition. In the twilight days of the war, they delved into the Sea of Rust in pursuit of a powerful Energon signature. When they arrived, they received more than they bargained for. Shockwave discovered an ancient star map that led to the coordinates of planet Earth. Using reverse-engineered space bridge technology, Shockwave studied the at-the-time indigenous life forms, including giant insects and dinosaurs. Such creatures yielded a wealth of abilities, ones that, Shockwave reasoned, would prove useful to the war effort if applied to Cybertronian CNA. All he needed was test subjects. Grimlock and his team were captured and deemed worthy enough for the experiment. Shockwave disassembled them, right down to their core subroutines, and rebuilt them. Over and over and over again, they were torn apart, reassembled, and exposed to foreign genetics. Eventually, they lost their minds. Where once Grimlock was a cunning warrior in his own right, the torture he underwent left his mind a pale shadow of its old self. all that was left was rage, hatred, and war. Those who had become the Decepticons, though they volunteered willingly, likely suffered a similar form of torture, as by the time they were fully converted, they were all deranged. Many Decepticons went on to be little more than savages. Yet Shockwave did not care. The experiments were successful. That was all that mattered to him. The only time he reacted with an emotion other than indifference was when Grimlock's will proved too strong to dominate. Yet even then, the Dinobot leader only delayed Shockwave's plans. Shockwave is known throughout the continuities to experiment on fellow Cybertronians in much the same way as he does here, be it Predacon cloning, the cortical psychic patch, transforming Senator Ratbat into a beast, or murdering Dreadwing in an attempt to discover the extent of Ore-14's regenerative properties. There are scientists in Earth's history who have done unethical things for the quote-unquote greater good, or for the sake of progress, but Shockwave cares little for such things. Much of what he creates are weapons of mass destruction, or a means by which to control or pacify those in his path. And unlike J. Robert Oppenheimer, being labeled Death, the Destroyer of Worlds, would not move Shockwave in any way. He would not lament it, nor would he relish it. Shockwave is unfeeling in his scientific exploits, in some cases, literally. And this air of unfeeling extends to other aspects as well. Few Decepticons possess as haunting a presence as Shockwave. Megatron is an intimidating presence, possessing the strength of a seasoned warrior, the ruthlessness of a beast, and the cunning of a military genius. The Lord of the Decepticons revels in his warlike ways and enjoys taunting his foes. Torture, murder, and destruction are second nature to Megatron. Soundwave is an unyielding computer, fiercely loyal to his master. He is a one-man army with a wide array of tech and sound-based abilities. His single-minded focus makes him a deadly combatant. Starscream is ambition personified. He will cut down whoever stands in his path in order to achieve even a microcosm of power. His treachery and skills as a tactician make him a dangerous and unpredictable foe. But Shockwave is something worse than any of these can ever be. He simply does not care. Megatron and Starscream will get a certain glee out of causing chaos or wreaking destruction. Soundwave is so devoted to the cause that even if he does not show it, there will be some sense of satisfaction upon completion of a task. But Shockwave, once a task is done, he moves on to the next one without skipping a beat, and said task could be anything from creating a new superweapon, discovering a long-lost scientific secret, or laying waste to an entire world filled to the brim with sentient life. Shockwave will not stop to taunt or monologue to his enemies, nor will he ever take a chance to laugh maniacally. Philosophy and morality mean nothing to him, so attempting to appeal to these will fall on deaf audio receptors, and likely lead to an early demise. Optimus Prime will reason with the majority of Decepticons, appealing to their better natures, but Shockwave has no better nature, and Prime is all too aware of that. Beyond this, Shockwave is also near indestructible. His body is even more heavily shielded against attacks than most, with his only weakness being his eye, a small target on a massive body. His size is not just for show, as Shockwave possesses insane strength and surprising speed to match. The cannon that comprises his left arm is known as the Hyperflux Cannon, a weapon powered by the energy of the cosmos. When fully charged, it has the potential to generate miniature black holes that can instantly and painfully destroy a target. Not even Galvatron's particle cannon can deal such devastating destruction. Shockwave is a terrifying figure to battle. Much like Darth Vader or the villain in a slasher film, he will calmly stride towards his victims, his singular eye giving no emotion away, as all but the strongest opponents are blasted into oblivion. Yet at least his enemies only have to deal with him in battle. Being on the same team as Shockwave would be similar to sharing a bunk with Michael Myers. He gives no emotion away and constantly stalks around like some kind of phantom. And though he may seem to be on your side, you never know when he will turn on you. Shockwave does not make friends, or even whatever passes for friends among the Decepticon ranks. He prefers the solitude of his laboratory, a lab often stained with spilled energon and filled with grotesque, half-formed experiments. The only solace a Decepticon may have around Shockwave is that, on the surface, he does not seem the type to cause unnecessary upheaval. Starscream, Arachnid, Bludgeon, Blitzwing, Astrotrain, each of these may at one point decide that they will be a better leader, and will often be humbled, if not outright destroyed, by Megatron. Surely, Shockwave would never do something like that. Incorrect. Shockwave would, and he would be successful. In the Marvel Comics run of the Transformers back in 1985, he did just that. After 4 million years of war and a long string of failures by the Decepticons, Shockwave decided that Megatron was no longer the logical choice for the leadership of Cybertron. And so he staged a coup, one where he not only humbled Megatron twice, but nearly destroyed the Autobots completely. Were it not for Ratchet's survival, the war would have ended here and now. Shockwave would be the de facto leader of the Decepticons for some time, with Megatron being presumed dead after vanishing. Even when other Decepticon leaders such as Scorponok and Ratbat would arise, and with Megatron's eventual return, Shockwave remained a consistent threat to Autobot and Decepticon alike. In Fall of Cybertron, one of Shockwave's secret logs details how he plans to eliminate Megatron eventually, and in the IDW continuity he is proven to not be entirely loyal to the cause, when an entity known as the D-Void, the former master of Galvatron, who is not a future version of Megatron in this continuity, just go with it, creates a monster known as the Deceptigod from the fanaticism of the Decepticons. Only Megatron, whose will proves to be too strong for the D-Void's power, and Shockwave were unaffected. As mentioned earlier, Shockwave's only master is logic. If it becomes logical to usurp Megatron, then Shockwave will do so. If the Decepticons as a whole are no longer a logical option, Shockwave will abandon them. There is no limit to the depravity his unfeeling logic will lead him to do. In the IDW continuity, literally everything is Shockwave's fault. Not only were his machinations vital in beginning the Autobot-Decepticon war, but through time travel he found himself at the dawn of Cybertronian civilization. He influenced, whether directly or indirectly, the creation of the Fallen, Nemesis Prime, Galvatron, the Functionist system, and so many other evils. In a roundabout way, he became responsible for the horrors that made him what he would become. While seeding prehistoric worlds with energon ore, he came across a team of Maximals on Earth, or World 13. The Maximals were damaged and their memory circuits scrambled. One, upon seeing a transmission from Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, wondered if he was in fact the Autobot scout. Overtaken by malicious curiosity, Shockwave reprogrammed and rebuilt the Maximals into replicas of the Autobots and Decepticons, and pitted them against each other in a mock war, for no other reason than to improve his own tactical understanding. They would continue to fight even after Shockwave left them behind, only stopping when they ran out of energon and entered stasis lock. All of his machinations led eventually to the events of Dark Cybertron, where he intended to collapse all of reality in order to keep Cybertron living for eternity. Though he failed, the singularity he created hurled him back in time millions of years. Disguising himself as the deceased Onyx Prime, he manipulated events so that all that had led him to this point would transpire. His deeds would reach a head as he planned to destroy Cybertron completely, both culturally and literally. He single-handedly dismantled the legacy of the Primes and manipulated events so that Unicron, the Chaos Bringer, would return. Placing a tainted relic in Cybertron's core, planning to destroy Unicron and Cybertron in one fell swoop, he turned his attention to Earth once more. Upon seizing control of the Decepticons in Marvel G1, Shockwave used the still-living decapitated head of Optimus Prime as a power source, as originally the Matrix, then known as the Creation Matrix, resided in Prime's head instead of his chest. He enslaved numerous humans working for oil tycoon GB Blackrock and used them to build the superweapon known as Jetfire. Upon forming an alliance with the terrorist organization Cobra, Shockwave planned to utterly destroy the Earth in a bid to generate a near-endless supply of energy, which could then be converted into Energon. In the Energon continuity, Shockwave, or Shock Blast as he was called, was a ruthless monster that even the other Decepticons feared and hated. After the Minicon War, he was imprisoned deep beneath Cybertron and only released when the recently revived Megatron staged a Decepticon uprising. His distaste for Megatron led him to eventually attempt taking control of the still dormant Unicron, an action that would lead to his demise. In the animated continuity, Shockwave was a double agent with form-shifting abilities beyond the typical robot vehicle transformation. He infiltrated Cybertron High Command disguised as Logarm, Chief of Autobot Intelligence. To conceal his identity, he manipulated Bumblebee into framing fellow platoon mate Wasp as a traitor, and later crushed Agent Blur into a cube. Even his position as Chief of Intelligence was achieved through murder, as he killed his predecessor, Highbrow. Once his true identity was discovered, he severely injured Ultra Magnus, a deed that would lead to the Autobot commander's eventual death. In the aligned continuity, on top of his creation of the Dinobots and Insecticons, Shockwave also created the Forged, a faction of lobotomized Decepticons who served his every whim, and the Combiner, Devastator. Late in the war, he captured Alpha Trion, eager to experiment on the CIA of a Prime. While in prison, the aged Autobot said that Shockwave would tear all of creation apart just to satisfy his own ambitions, something his IDW counterpart nearly succeeded in accomplishing. He revived the long-dead race of the Predacons through Jurassic Park-esque cloning, and when the creatures proved to be sentient, went along with their destruction willingly and without pause. He used the sparks of captive Autobots to turn the Triptychon station into a sentient organism, rendering the prisoners sparkless shells. Numerous Decepticon weapons of mass destruction were found on Earth during the events of Transformers Prime, including the Immobilizer, which renders its targets frozen in place but still conscious, the Resonance Blaster, which generates powerful and destructive sound waves, and the Spark Extractor, whose name speaks for itself. Considering Shockwave's position as chief scientist, it is likely that he was at least involved in the creation of these weapons. Where other Decepticons are ruthless, intimidating, psychotic, or just dangerous, Shockwave is a monster through and through. He is unfeeling, be it in waging war, in experimentation and invention, or in whatever other machinations he becomes involved in or concocts himself. Even Megatron should fear the one-eyed Decepticon, as he is the most likely to succeed in supplanting him. Neither Autobot nor Decepticon are safe when the mad logician is present. The lucky ones will die. The unlucky will be torn apart before dying. And the unluckiest will be kept alive as some twisted experiment. Not even the destructive nature of Unicron comes even close to the logical horror that is Shockwave. Thank you all for joining me on this quest through darkness. If you enjoyed the video and like what I do here, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel further, or if you'd like to request a future video topic or vote on pre-chosen topics, consider joining the Knight's Realm Patreon. The link is in the description below, or you can leave your suggestions as a super thanks in the comments section. In any case, join me on our next trek through the shadows, if you dare.